We're not doing it for that. We're doing it to operate efficiently. So we actually reduce stress in the practice because people know what the goals are, what they're supposed to do, and how to do it, and how to solve problems. So it actually makes things easier if you focus on results and celebrate success and keep the people aspect in mind. Not just in mind, but prioritize the people side of your practice.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode on Beyond the Operatory, a podcast that has been put together by the amazing team at Dental City, and it's all about things that are not always clinical, right? Many of you that know of Dental City know of them as an organization and a company that has been helping dental practices with their supplies. I think most importantly, like making sure that those supplies get to the practice so that they can do what they need to do. But they're very excited about launching this Beyond the Operatory podcast in an effort to be able to create some more value for you as a dental professional. And so I'm excited to keep these conversations going. And this is the last episode with Ken Mathys as we talk a little bit more the business of dentistry. We've gone through a whole host of things with Ken, anything from if you're a new dentist and some things to look for as far as your career is concerned to the detailed things you want to look into when purchasing a practice. We even got into a little bit about team culture and all of that. And we're going to wrap things up on this episode with Ken. He's going to get into the business management piece. So you've decided what you want to do with your career as a dentist. You've purchased that practice, and then you got to operate it, right? You've built your team. You've done some things there. So, Ken, it's good to have you back. And I think this is a good way to kind of wrap things up, the business management piece, which is how can you build some of these systems so that your practice can operate hopefully as smooth as possible?
Right.
All right. So I want to start with strategic planning, not maybe always at the top of the list of a practicing dentist, but crucial when it comes to growing a profitable practice.
Yeah, and that term might scare some people off. Yeah. But think of it this way. It's just visioning the way you want your practice to be at some part of the future. And what are the important elements of that you're going to have to build over time, and it's a time-based process, that will get you where you want to go ultimately. Now, when you look at strategic planning, you evaluate lots of different things. The typical, what are you good at? What are you not good at? What are your competitors doing? What are the external forces and all that stuff? And you don't have to do an MBA project on this for your dental practice, but it would be really worth the effort to lay out on a piece of paper what you see in the future, where you'd really like to take this practice, and what you'd like to do. Put a date on it so you can pull it out every year and see where you're at. But that gives you the long-term roadmap that then you can kind of break down and parse out what the individual pieces are.
Well, and one piece of that, which is the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is kind of starting with the end in mind. And in this case, maybe it's just like each year, right? You look at the year, your strategic planning, and that is scheduling your business reviews, financial planning, all that stuff or what have you. Talk a little bit about how, you helped practices in the past and maybe some good ideas of like how to get that on the calendar so that it's there and scheduled.
Yeah, it should be a regular part of your practice. So what comes out of strategic planning is annual business planning. And it's identifying those things that will, if done successfully, will get you closer to your ultimate strategic plan. There's some goal setting around that. There's some providing expenses around that. There's team aspects to that. But it's really laying out on paper for each of those segments of the business, whether it's revenue stream, cost stream, fixed costs, variable costs, investments, reinvestment, whatever those things are, lay those out in financial or statistical terms too. Describe it first. Describe it in a way that you can convey that to your team, easily understandable way. But you're going to have numbers with that, and you're going to plug in, have your accountant, your dental CPA plug in for you, or if you're good at spreadsheets, fine, but I recommend you use a resource for that and build a forward-looking model with those assumptions to say, hey, if we do all of this, here's the likely result. And if I get that, this is what I'm going to be able to do with those funds in terms of serving patients, team, reinvestment.
So I think about the beginning of a year, kind of like the gate with the horses at the Kentucky Derby, right? Like your strategic planning, your business planning, you're getting excited for the anticipation of like what this race could be. And then the gate opens up, and then it's like you're in the first stretch, you're around the first turn. And so obviously as the year goes on, you want to have systems in place, but more importantly, you want to be measuring to see where you're at. And so let's get into that next.
Sure. Just some basic measures that you want to look at. Of course, within the productivity section, revenue stream productivity section, you're going to look at how many patient visits, patients per day. You're going to look at production per day, production per hour. This is for the hygiene program as well. You're going to look at new patient flow, and you're going to want to track those things. On the expense side of things, you're going to want to track some of your expense ratios too, your labor factors, your materials rate, and so forth. And those should be set up so that in your financial statements, in your information system, between your practice management system and your financial statements, can be set up to pull these numbers into one spot that you can look at once a month, actual goal last year. So you can measure your progress, and you can communicate your progress to your team too, so you can all rally around it. And that information should be available to review within a week or so after the month end. And the disciplines involved, the commitment you show to that, and the disciplines involved will convey to your team the importance of what you have there, the things you feel are important. And you tie that into your team performance system as well. It's a natural linkage.
Is this something that you should do on January 2nd? Or maybe before the year ends?
Your annual plan?
Yeah, or like getting a lot of these things in place, right?
Yeah.
Like when I think through, like we just came out of, the Christmas holiday, and it's like, the world slows down, which I think is positive for a lot of people. But like, as you're kind of talking about this, could you also lay out for everybody that's watching this from your experience, a good time to do this?
Sure.
So that you can come into the year and not feel like it's already February, and you're kind of behind the gate a little bit.
That's a great question. And usually December is a pretty busy month, right? And you have the holidays. So not a lot is going to happen in December. So I'd recommend, let's say it's your first year, you're going to take that due diligence that you did. You're going to have that model, that initial model. You're going to know generally the kinds of things that you want to do and what your strategy is going to be long term. But I think it's a really good idea to start looking at that and have that done by Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Have that done in Wisconsin by hunting season. You want to have that all done. As soon as you take ownership of that practice, that's the time you should be building the metrics, pulling the information, realizing what's in the numbers, being totally familiar with the numbers. As an owner, you want to know the numbers, you want to be on top of your business, but you also want to convey to your team that you're on top of the business.
Well, and I think the next thing to talk about, like you mentioned there with the team, is okay, now that you have all this laid out, assume the responsibility, like who's going to be responsible for each one of those, right? So you have these different checkpoints along the year. So how do you advise that?
Yeah. In an ideal world, the team would pull the numbers and the team would explain the numbers. You can't expect that on day one if they haven't been doing that.
Something to work towards, though?
Something to work toward. And that can be on that performance grid that I explained in the last podcast is, let's say, you ask a hygienist to keep track of your mix between perio procedures and prophy procedures, mm-hmm. right? Basic procedures. That's something that you can build into the expectations for that person as a key element of the high performance. Mm-hmm. Medium performance would be coming in, doing the prophies, engaging with the patient, suggesting some treatment, things like that. High end would be some things like that, and say, I'm going to want you to do this. Are you interested? I need you to do this. Get buy-in, and then build that over a few month period of time. And here's what I want you to look at: are we staying up on our X-rays? Are we staying up to date on our visits, our perio and prophy visits? That type of thing would be a good example. One for the assistants would be case presentation. What cases have been presented but haven't been accepted? Somebody should be looking at that.
Yeah.
So somebody should be looking at the schedule, your front desk, open times, things like that. So there's plenty of things that they can do that maybe they haven't done, maybe that weren't done at all, but that are really going to move the practice forward.
A winning culture is something that is contagious, right? It's my son, he's 11 years old, was on a couple of baseball teams his first part of playing baseball, and they never won. And he wasn't very excited about wanting to continue to play. And so we switched leagues, and he got on a team and ended up winning the championship that year. And now he wants to play baseball all the time, right? And I'm sharing this because when I think about everything that you've talked about, the strategic planning, the business planning, the meetings, the metrics, there is an element of then celebrating success, which is crucial. So, and not just doing that at the end of the year, but so talk about that a little bit and what you've seen, just how important that is to this whole process.
Each of us wants to know that we're contributing to the overall goal. Yeah. Timely feedback is extremely important. I firmly believe that if you have a fair pay system in place, recognition and acknowledgement of a job well done is the most important thing. So in your planning and when you break down your annual plan into monthly plans, you're going to have daily goals. And not only numerical type goals that you can celebrate, and these should be done in the daily huddles, bring out the good things that happened. Yesterday, we nailed it. We did X, Y, and Z. But also catching people doing things right. Catching somebody flowing to the work. Let's say a front desk person goes back and changes an op because they got behind in the back. Or an assistant help the hygienist change over an op, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of human accomplishments that really should be identified with your annual plan too, not just numbers.
Right.
And I think success builds success when you acknowledge that a team member helped another person unselfishly. That's going to cause other people to do the same. Yeah. So that's how when things haven't gone that well, or you're trying to establish a winning track record, you're just not there yet. That's how you do it. You start with the small stuff and you get excitement. When you get that team on your side and get excited about what they do or how they handle a case discussion with a patient or reinforced treatment or whatever that is, you've got something. And you've got to stay on it. You've got to be the eyes and ears as the owner. And you've got all kinds of other things to do, but there's nothing more important than catching people doing things right.
Yeah.
And acknowledging them in front of the group.
Another piece of that is giving feedback. That's one of the things that Betsy and I talked about, of just how important this is. And it can be an emotional thing, which I've seen it, I'm sure you've seen it, to where it can prevent a practice owner from maybe waiting to give feedback. And then before you know it, it's been a year, and then something doesn't go well, and then they never knew if they were on the right track or not. So what's been your experience with that? And talk about feedback a little bit.
I think timeliness of feedback is the most important thing. When you get to the point of having a performance appraisal, it's way too late.
Yeah.
It's way too late. And this takes work. It takes dedication to being tuned in and being watchful to identify somebody that's excelling, doing things right, where you can say something, or if something doesn't go right or it would have been a different way, a better way, it would have been different. That's got to happen pretty timely. And it's tough because at the end of the day, you're all busy and you're trying to get out of there and you're trying to wrap up. But you have to find a way to say, hey, I noticed when you handled Mrs. Jones, you did a beautiful job of reinforcing the treatment and she accepted the treatment. That was excellent verbal skills. Good job. That's all you have to say. Be great if you could drop a little note in their file so you have that to rely on. Or if somebody was short with a patient or another staff person and you could see that had a negative impact, it's really important to say, hey, Jane, stop over before you go. Just say, hey, I noticed when you had this situation, this is what happened. I saw the patient didn't look real happy or your coworker didn't look real happy. A better way to handle that would have been this. Not to criticize, but to make a suggestion, but to catch it right away. It's much better to have that person feel, receive that feedback, even though they might be disappointed in themselves or mad a little bit. Right. It's much better to have that feedback now versus months from now. So timeliness is important. Then there's a formal side of it too. Ideally, well, we tried to teach our practices. Ideally, you'd have about every 3 months, you just have a 5 or 10 minute sit down. How's it going? You've been doing some things really well. Just want to check in. How's the family? Whatever. Mainly performance focus. And then when it comes to the annual review where you have a more formal process, that goes really easy. That's easy. We've talked several times this year about the good things you're doing. You're working on these things over here. Keep doing it. I see improvement. Makes a year-end review so easy and stress-free. No, not stress-free. Almost stress-free.
Yeah. Well, it gives them, I think you mentioned it earlier, it provides an expectation and a roadmap for them so that there's no surprises. They feel like that it's important to you as the practice owner. And another part of that I wanted to get your thoughts on is, like a formula bonus and some of the pros and cons, right? So now that you've kind of built this structure of feedback and performance and metrics, then many practices are setting up bonuses and indoor formula bonuses. But talk a little bit about kind of your experience with that.
Yeah, my experience with formula bonuses is really mixed. That there's been as many instances of not reaching the goal and not having a payout as there have been having payouts. Mm-hmm. And that can be a real risk. What you don't want to have is a formula bonus that never pays out. And you don't want to have to adjust your targets to easier and easier to meet. So my recommendation is not to start with formula bonuses. Start with all these other aspects of performance and expectations. And then when your team gets to the point where they've matured enough in terms of being on the same page with you and understanding the business, and when they've been reporting the results and they've been problem solving why we didn't get, why we had that open slot or why we didn't land that case, when they get to that point and they really understand the business, then you can consider a formula bonus that's productivity based in some way. Until then, if you put the formula bonus in place and expect people to figure out how are they going to increase revenue,
right,
it's really a tough situation. Yeah. And so just be careful with that. Think through that. There's all kinds of bonus systems that have been concocted out there. Well, we'll give a bonus if we do so many x-rays or, so many new patients. Well, did they have a role in landing new patients? Did they have a role in doing the x-rays? Maybe a couple people did. Yeah. Maybe the front desk and the hygienist did. So you've got to be able to tie everything together. And that's why I think a good base pay system has got to be in place first, and your feedback system's got to be in place first before you can entertain a formula system for the whole team.
Yeah. And then finally, in this episode, I'd love to have you talk a little bit about the good old daily huddle, right? The importance of having one, committing to it, how it's structured, but then what you've seen over the years of the teams that do this, how they somehow find a way to consistently win and provide great care.
I'm a firm believer in a daily huddle where the whole team's got to be there. It's tough when you have a large team, tough when you work different shifts, different days. But the daily huddle provides the opportunity to do a check on how do we do yesterday. Real brief. We had a great day yesterday. We filled as many slots. We landed these many cases. We got out of here on time, and we did really well. We had a great day yesterday. Yesterday we didn't meet our goals. We ended up with some open slots. We had cancellations. Things didn't happen the way we want. That should be like a minute or 2 minutes. And that should be by, if there is an office manager or a front desk person, someone that can report on that. No, what have you done there? You've required that person to be on top of things and to be able to communicate and to be tuned in. But then when it comes to this today, then you'd have the assistant saying, we've got these patients coming in. These are the cases that we've got out there for them that haven't been accepted yet. And the hygienist would say, hey, we got x-rays on this person. We've got, we're doing perio here, whatever. I could use some help changing over a room. That should be very quick. 3, 4, 5 minutes, bing, bing, bing. And it requires that auxiliary team to be tuned into the business. Yeah. This should all happen by the staff members. Yeah. This should all be conducted by the staff members. And the dentist should be able to say, hey, yeah, great job yesterday. You reinforce some of that stuff. Yeah. It's not a time to solve practice problems or issues unless you say, hey, we got an issue that come up. We're putting that on the monthly agenda. We're going to work that offline. And I think it's just got to be bing, 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 and there's something in there for everybody. Everybody on the team should have a responsibility, part of that huddle, reporting something, being tuned in, so their mind is in it. And they should be there on time, and you should allow time for that. But it should be short. Now, you pair that up with what I think is ideal every month or two. Maybe you sit down with the hygienist or the assistants or the front desk on the opposite schedule, right? And then once a month you'd have a team and all staff meeting. But I think they've got to be well planned. They've got to have roles. They've got to have an agenda, and they have to be, business focused, not too much personal stuff in that. Now you want to celebrate somebody had a baby or somebody got married or whatever, that's fine. Yeah. But so I think they can be really effective. And in the monthly meetings, the staff would have their sections, but the dentist would always tie his or her section to, the annual plan, the business goals for the month. Here's how we're doing. Let's put the gas on here. Let's throttle up. Okay. Seeing some good things. Nice job. Just the tone. Yeah. The tone. And then obviously you supplement that with the dentist staying tuned in each person individually just for short moments throughout the course of the week. And I think that's a good framework for information sharing and keeping the focus on, but still keeping things light for people.
Yeah. I think a great way to wrap this one is to have you share your thoughts on how important it is under this business management concept and everything that you've talked about, that as social beings, team members in a dental practice, we like routine, like we like structure. We may not always say that, but I think a lot of times, at least in my experience and conversations with dentists over the years, and I'm sure you've seen it, in your experience as well, it can feel like, if I create these systems, this business management plan, these reviews, these daily huddles, my team is going to feel like we have too much structure on what we do. Right. However, I feel like so often the opposite is what they really want. And so like if I'm a team member coming into a dental practice that doesn't have these things in place, it can almost be worse. So
Right.
any final thoughts? I mean, this is such an important, topic here under business management, but like any final thoughts on just really what you've seen over the years of how much teams really do value a practice owner to build these processes and structures.
Yeah. I think people like predictability, and the structures will give you that. Owning and operating a business or practice is an art. It's not necessarily all of one or all of the other. You've got to gauge the team, how the team's doing with the structure. Structure is critically important. But once they learn that and operate within the structure, it'll be predictable. Even unpredictable situations will be predictable and how the problems they get solved.
Right.
So we're not focusing on this to do it for the business plans part or the systems part. For the sake of doing it. We're not doing it for that. We're doing it to operate efficiently. So we actually reduce stress in the practice because people know what the goals are, what they're supposed to do, and how to do it, and how to solve problems. So it actually makes things easier if you focus on results and celebrate success and keep the people aspect in mind. Not just in mind, but prioritize the people side of your practice so that it'll all flow just naturally. That's just what we do. We're a championship team. This is how we operate.
Yeah. Ken, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time and your insight. And the last question that I have for you is that when you look back at your career, what's one of the biggest things that you look back on and with all the things that you shared, in all these episodes that you could share to a dental practice that's watching this?
There was one period of time at the lab where I thought, as being a boss, I had to keep track of what everybody on my team was supposed to be doing and whether they were doing it. So when they came to me for the monthly meeting, it was me pulling all the information together. It was me assessing where they're at. And I wasn't having any fun. I was not having any fun. And my staff wasn't having any fun either. I was a boss. The light went on and I flipped that around to say, hey, I'd like you to come to me with your status on your goals and your priorities. Tell me what's going well. Where do you need help? Let me know how you're doing. And I put that ball in their hands to do that. And they responded tremendously. And it was the single greatest thing was trusting that my team members had a lot of skills and cared a lot about the business. And they actually overachieved the goals I would have put in front of them anyway. Yeah. They did a lot better. And that was the single time, and I can remember it distinctly, that happened. Things changed remarkably in our performance as a team and just having fun in general.
Such a great lesson. And I know the Dental City team really appreciates you doing this and sharing your insights. It's going to be super valuable for everybody watching. And again, if this information has been valuable for you in your dental practice, subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube channel. We'd love for you to do that. And of course, Apple and Spotify, subscribe there as well. And the plan as we continue this Beyond the Operatory podcast, one of the next goals is we're going to continue to have some of the industry leaders that Dental City has great relationships with to continue to bring you this type of high-level content that we've had with Ken and we had with Betsy. But the Dental City team also wants to bring to you some of their dental partners, right? A lot of these dental companies that they work with and have relationships with, and have them share with you what they're up to, what their why is with their products and services and technologies and all of that. Because I think one of the unique things about a dental practice in the dental industry is that you use these products and services and technologies and materials every day, right? And so like we're closer to each other I think, than we are further apart, all in an effort to be able to provide great patient care for this industry that we love. So thanks for tuning in. And until the next episode, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, John.
You got it.